It is Tuesday's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and welcome back inside the lab with your boys Steele Roden and Big Flip Livingstone. We are back, baby. It is Gemini season, and it is the third round of the NHL playoffs, but we're breaking down the Colorado Avalanche versus the Edmonton Oilers. Everything you need to know on today's episode. Let's ride.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Party people, hockey heads, and gambling degenerates alike, welcome back to your favorite and hottest podcast. It is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Steele and Flip. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We are hovering around that 100 subscriber mark. Steele and I are proud and happy to have all y'all along for the ride. But make sure you are smashing that subscribe button because there is a lot more content to come. And as I was just mentioning to Steele off air, this is your hockey hub for everything you need to know about your fantasy draft. Steele and I will be feeding you everything you need to make sure you're making that money come September, October when the drafts are rolling out, baby. Breaking down positions, top ranking sleepers, X factors, all of the above. So make sure you keep it locked right here all summer long. Content will be rolling out the door. That's what Steele and I do. So thank you for showing us all that love every single day. On today's episode, my friends, I'm all kinds of fired up because this Edmonton Oilers Colorado series, Steele, has the makings of just fireworks galore. I'm expecting an offensive output from both teams. We will be taking a look at that as well. We have our locks of the night, you know it, and our predictions and bets for the series outcome. Steele, I want to hear it, brother. Are you going to go bold, kooky Flip here, kooky Mike Smith? Are we going to go on the Edmonton Oilers train? Because I did say a lot of crazy things about futures bets. What are you thinking for this series, my friend? And thanks for having me back. Thanks for covering me on yesterday's episode.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure. And always happy to be doing this with you, Flip. So I'm glad you're back. Look, with your bet that you made for the Oilers back, 2.5 months ago, what was that? Plus 3,300 was it at the time?
Something like that. I can look it up, but it was juicy.
It was close. It was close to that. So kudos to you to putting some money down because the cash out option probably is pretty juicy right now. I'm not really sure how much you put on that, but it's got to be pretty big. And the return is probably pretty big as well. But I'm not going with the Oilers for this series, and I'm sticking with my guns. I've been saying for many, many years now that I still don't have faith in Mike Smith or Mikko Koskinen. I don't think the Oilers team is good enough. Look, McDavid and Draisaitl are playing out of their minds right now. 26 points each, 7 goals, and 19 assists. Like, just incredible what they're able to do and being able to carry this Oilers team to the Western Conference Final. And, they're still getting some help from guys that they made at the trade deadline as well. Like before that was Evander Kane is playing well. He's got a couple of hat tricks. Zach Hyman's doing his thing offensively as well, chipping in when the Oilers need him to.
Yep.
They're getting some help right now, but against the Colorado Avalanche, I just don't see this happening the way the first 2 rounds have went for the Edmonton Oilers. It's pretty much, to me, the way I'm looking at this, McDavid and Draisaitl against the Colorado Avalanche.
That's not a bad way to look at it because realistically, we know that those are the 2 guys that are going to have to continue to carry the load. And it might be something that I don't think a lot of people are really talking about, Steele. And maybe that's going to be credit due to us on this episode. And, hang with me here for a second and let me explain how I'm looking at this because everyone's talking about how great these 2 have been. And that's correct. You should be. Those numbers are insane. They're historically good. All of that. I'm loving it. But why are we not hearing more about how can they actually keep this pace going? This is historical for a reason. The reason that the only name on the list along with McDavid is Lemieux and Gretzky. Is this really sustainable? I'm going to go with no. And I don't think many people are really talking about the fact that the only reason they are here now is because they're not doing this much more. They are this much more. They are on another level up to this point, and I just don't know if it's realistic to expect that to continue. I don't know what you think about that because I know it's Draisaitl and McDavid.
Yeah.
But let's also be real. They are going up against the Cup favorites here. People in Canada, and this is the Canadian hockey media doing what they do. Let's be realistic, Steele. This is the Colorado Avalanche, baby. I don't think their Colorado fan base is worried at all because, like you said, two guys is not going to get it done for every single round. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, and I'm on the same page with you. The way I'm also looking at it, when you look back at the first two rounds, and I'm not trying to make excuses for how the Edmonton Oilers got to this point in the playoffs, but if you look at the first round against the LA Kings, they're without Drew Doughty. And I've said this a couple of times that, even though Jonathan Quick has had a stellar career, he's at the point in the career where injuries have really affected him. And he played great in the first round, but he's obviously not the goalie he once was when he won the 2 Stanley Cups. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but the first round, the LA Kings took them to 7 games. They end up squeaking out a win in Game 7 against the LA Kings. What was it, 2-0 or 2-1, I believe it was. Yeah. And so they squeak out a win in Game 7 against the Kings. And then we know from the last 4 or 5 years with the Calgary Flames, they do not show up in the first round. And even if they are able to get past the first round, they don't make anything of it in the second round. And we saw that exactly the same thing this year. The first round against the Dallas Stars, no offensive weapons. The goalie stole the show. In the second round, it's the opposite. Jakob Markstrom is nowhere to be found. And even then, they weren't getting the goal scoring that they really needed to. Against the Edmonton Oilers. And that's exactly what McDavid and Draisaitl can do. They can make this team, they can carry this team and get all the way to a Western Conference Finals. And that's what they've been able to do. But for me, like you said, it's the Stanley Cup favorites. They've been the Stanley Cup favorites since last year, since the Lightning won the Stanley Cup. And the way I'm looking at this is the Edmonton Oilers have had somewhat of an easy road to this point. Somewhat also, of an easy road.
And there's something to be said, like 100% what you're putting down, I'm picking up. And, let's be honest, we're jaded Leafs fans, and it hurts me to see a Canadian team doing well. And hey, throw all the hate you want, but that's real. But what you're saying is still true. The LA Kings, were pushed them to the brink, and for good reason. They showed up big time against their big rival. But I think, Steele, and what I'm taking from what we're both saying is this is not going to get any better of an opportunity for the Edmonton Oilers to prove themselves. Let's maybe just leave it at that, but let's also be realistic that the task at hand here is tall. Props due to the Edmonton Oilers for getting past 2 rounds, but it's not exactly like they had to go through a 7-game series against, again, don't mean to bring up the Leafs, the 2-time reigning Cup champs, and squeak through. They squeaked through against an LA Kings team missing some key pieces and having an aging John Quick. That's all I think we're really trying to say here, Steele, and really just give this perspective of the series at hand. And I'm obviously going to lay down some picks myself, some predictions. You know that I have some money on the Edmonton Oilers long shot, but I'm also not going to get carried away here. And we will explain all of that after the break. We will have our lock of the night as well at the end of the episode. Make sure you're staying tuned for all of that. Our bets for the series coming up as well, breaking down tonight's game. But still, it's my favorite time, baby. Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's almost impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. This is where Rock Auto comes in. Don't endure the pointless and seemingly long, intimidating questioning about what part goes where while you wait behind the counter for hours. Hop on the computer, choose the only brand that you need. It is Rock Auto. Save time and money. It is a family-owned company. Why choose to pay 30, 50, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain or big-time box store when you can hit up Rock Auto, a family-owned business serving do-it-yourselfers like Steele and I for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer, not just the Locked On hosts. So make sure you go explore their easy website today and find all your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car, truck, any make or model. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know Steele and I sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com.
Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. Don't forget, we are free and available on all podcast platforms, which also includes YouTube. And thank you so much for 100 subscribers. It means the world to us. Let's get all the way up to 200. Make that our mission for next. But thank you so much for tuning in. It means the world to Flip and I. And what, Flip? Should we get right to the big time bets, the one game of the night for Tuesday?
Let's get right into it, Steele, because it also, I think, will evolve to more of the rest of the series as well, because I just wanted to highlight a couple of players that I think, we're going to talk about all week. The Cale Makars, the Nathan MacKinnons, the McDavids, Draisaitl for sure, even the Zach Hymans, those kinds of players. But I wanted to talk about a couple of other players that I think will really affect this series, including tonight. I'm going to go with the Colorado Avalanche. I'm going to go with the Colorado Avalanche on the puck line because I think they're starting to hear a little bit of the noise here about the Connor McDavid magic, which if they're not, they're slipping. And I think there's an opportunity here because all of a sudden, you're not talking about the Nathan MacKinnons, the Mikko Rantanens, and the Gabriel Landeskog's of the world. Oh, and maybe the best young defenseman of the past 40 years. You better not sleep on him because also we just talked about you squeaked by the LA Kings and then, you showed up great against your most bitter rival. Show me something, Steele. That's what this position is for me. My pick and lock of the night is the Colorado Avalanche. And for me, it's going to be guys like Devin Taves making the difference. 3 points in his last 3 games and eating major minutes, 27, 28, 30 minutes a night, chipping in with points. I'm looking at some of the guys down that blue line on the Colorado Avalanche, down the lineup to really make a difference tonight and throughout this whole series. After I hear your pick, I'll also give you my prediction for this series as well, my friend.
Man, it's actually funny that we don't discuss our picks or DFS selections before any of the podcasts. Nope. I'm on the exact same page with you. My first pick is the Avalanche on the puck line against the Oilers. And I think the Edmonton Oilers are in for a rude awakening here in game 1 against the Colorado Avalanche.
Me too.
I don't think it's going to be a picnic for them. I don't think it's going to be like the series we just watched against the Calgary Flames. I do see this being a 3-1 or a 4-2 type of score just for game 1. I do think this is going to be a high scoring series, but for game 1, I believe this is going to be a 4-2, 3-1 with an empty netter type of game. A lot of tight checking, a lot of physicality, and a lot of instigating. And I think that's what Colorado really needs to do to get under the skin of the Edmonton Oilers players. So my first pick, Avalanche on the puck line. And my second pick, which is also my lock of the night, Nathan MacKinnon anytime goal. And I know I've gone with Nathan MacKinnon anytime goal for the last couple of times, and it hasn't hit. But against the Oilers, he has 4 goals in a row the last time he's played the Oilers. 2 of them game winning. He's just an absolute stud out there. So I've got the anytime goal from Nathan MacKinnon.
I absolutely love that pick. And let me know what you think about this deal. And this is what I've been kind of running through my head a little bit after we've had the conversation we've had today. The St. Louis Blues, who the Colorado Avalanche just dispatched, that is a very tough team to play against. Not only are they balanced, and I know they had their issues in the crease, injuries, inconsistencies. Let's be honest. We'll admit that point. But this is a team that's only a few years removed from a Stanley Cup. A lot of those pieces still there. And they gave the Colorado Avalanche a pretty good ride, a.k.a. they're battle-tested. Now you have a look at the team they're going up against. And I know, again, Game 7, I understand, against the LA Kings. That's a 7-game series. People have flipped. They're battle-tested. Battle-tested my left buttocks because that's not the same as going 5 or 6 games against the St. Louis Blues in the second round. And it's not the same as playing your absolute biggest rival that you're up for every single night, even if you're in last place against the Calgary Flames. So I think that could really be the difference here. The Colorado Avalanche were pushed around by the St. Louis Blues, and now they're ready to show they are the real Stanley Cup favorites. And I think, Steele, you and I are on the same page. We don't need to say much more. I'm going to say Colorado Avalanche in 5 games in this series. Might be a little bit bold. 6 might have been the safe one. You know me, when it comes to this show, I like running my mouth. Give me the Colorado Avalanche in this series in 5 games, Steele.
I'm right there with you, Flip. I do also have the Colorado Avalanche in 5 games.
Bang.
And I'm not saying that it's not going to be a fight whatsoever.
No.
I think this is going to be a good series to watch, but
yeah,
this is the year the Colorado Avalanche win the Stanley Cup Finals. I had them winning the finals in my bracket. I believe you had them winning the finals in your bracket as well.
I would have to look back, but I don't think I was reinventing the wheel. I believe I had Colorado, Tampa Bay. So it's shaping up to be pretty good final for us.
Yeah, I had.
Could have had Tampa, to be honest. I was drinking that Lightning Kool-Aid. Hey, heading into the playoffs, if you want to run that clock back, plus 1,100 for the freaking 2-time reigning Cup champs was a juicy odd that I hope some people bet on.
Yeah, I was one of those people that sprinkled some money on the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Don't you? There you go, people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But look, I had the Colorado Avalanche and the Florida Panthers in the finals, and look how that turned out for the Panthers. But look, at least maybe potentially one Florida team can make it to the finals. That's a little bit of I guess a second place kind of prize there. But I still have the Avalanche winning the cup.
At this point, Steele, they have gotten a good draw with the Edmonton Oilers in the 3rd round. And look, I really don't want to, whoever Oilers fans are listening, think we're just beating up on this team for the sake of. This is a gambling betting show. If you can't understand us getting behind a team like the Colorado Avalanche after the hockey that we've just seen over the last 2 weeks, I don't even want to hear your explanation because we've seen enough. Trust me when I say Steele and I watch way too much hockey. And for the most part, unbiasedly, wait, I'll take that part back. But anyway, Steele, you know what we're getting at here. Everything that you've seen over the last few weeks, if you've been paying close attention, this Colorado Avalanche team deserves to be the favorites. But like you said, this is springtime hockey. I do not expect Edmonton Oilers just to roll over. And if Mike Smith can manage to continue to do something and keep this team in it, we know that the Connor McDavid magic is a tangible asset that can turn the tide of games. But that's one player, Steele. And give me the top 6 or 7 players on the Colorado Avalanche over the top 6 on the Edmonton Oilers any day of the week. And I'm confident saying that any day of the week.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. We're riding with the Colorado Avalanche against the Edmonton Oilers in the Western Conference Finals in 5 games. We believe this series will go in the Avalanche's favor. And we just want to make sure that we thank you so much for tuning in and making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. For your second listen, though, you have to check out Locked On NHL. From the first round matchups to each Stanley Cup kiss, Locked On NHL covers the playoffs like no other. Hear the latest news and opinions from local experts every Monday through Friday. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, just like this podcast right here. So if you haven't subscribed or hit the follow button yet, please do so. And once you do, you'll get the latest episodes of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Again, every day, Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.